Good evening. Ammon Bundy here. I come to you with extreme concern for the people of this land. And I hope that any of you that are watching this, whether you like me or hate me, will just consider the information that I'm presenting. Governor Inslee out of Washington had just made a very concerning announcement. He had a press conference, and it was quite an ordeal. It was about 40 minutes long. And the reason why I think that it is essential that we keep an eye on what Governor Inslee is doing is because in this COVID episode or this COVID scare, Washington has led in their actions, and then the other states have followed. I don't know what the connection is. I really don't know, but he certainly has led, especially the West, but in particular the entire country. And once they have done something, the other states have followed. With that being said, I am going to go through this video. It's not the entire video. It's only about 3 minutes of it. But I have sectioned off so you can understand what he's saying. I've edited it, but I haven't changed any of the chronology of it. I've only just taken a lot of the in-between stuff out so you don't have to spend 40 minutes listening to it, although I would encourage you to do that. So with that, I'm going to go to his video, and I will stop it from time to time and comment and show things that point things out that are very concerning.
We're simultaneously moving to this second initiative of testing, contact tracing, and isolation of people who in fact are infected. We think of this as a smart weapon, and its success will depend on both the state and local public health officials, and most importantly, individuals and families.
Okay, so first of all, he says they're moving on to a second stage. He called it a weapon, and then he specifically says that it is important and particularly families. And notice how he says families.
We need people to isolate themselves, including their household, even before test results come back.
So even before test results come back, isolate yourself.
The fourth is to identify the contacts and quarantine those people who've had contact who may be at risk, even before that they have had a positive test.
Okay, so he's talking about quarantine. He's not talking about voluntary quarantine. He's talking about quarantining them.
The second issue is that we will have testing. They will be reached by phone for the results. And at that time, they will be asked some questions about people with whom they've had contact who might have been infected by this virus. The contact tracer, and I'll talk about who those people are, they're very highly trained people.
So highly trained contact tracers that'll be trained in basically how to connect all these dots with all these people.
And the people who were contacted will not know who the person was who provided their name.
People can call in and say, I think so-and-so was sick. These contact tracers will basically enact these laws and these implementations, and no one will know who actually even called in.
And we want to make sure that we have enough resources to get this job done. By the end of this week, we'll have 1,371 people who are fully trained when that is necessary to get this job done. So the people who do this work are very carefully screened.
So he's just emphasizing on the people who are doing this work. And we know a large amount of this work will be being done by the Washington National Guard.
So with that, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Colonel Steve Hobbs to address this issue.
We are so pleased to support the Department of Health in its efforts to push the voluntary COVID-19 mapping program.
Okay, So I want to emphasize that this lieutenant, he's actually not the head of the National Guard, but he is a senator in the Washington legislature. So he's a lieutenant in the National Guard, and he's a senator. Now listen to what Governor Inslee says about these people and the importance of them following orders.
Just great to have people who understand discipline and following orders. It's very important in this. I'm glad that we are working in combination with the University of Washington for an app that could be of assistance to people to find out if they have been in the proximity of people who are infected.
So they're working with the University of Washington on basically digitally and through an app, and he'll mention here hardware from Google and Apple, so that they can identify people in restaurants and on the street and whatever it may be, and identify them as possibly having COVID-19, and therefore they can implement forced quarantine.
That app could use some hardware, essentially, and software from Apple and Google. And this is a very promising technology. Obviously, if you have somebody who's become sick and they were sitting right next to a person at a restaurant, to be able to identify that person could be very valuable.
So now he's going to talk about families again. And notice how he talks about those who won't quarantine at their homes. Notice, and then I'm going to make a point after this.
I wanted to talk just a little bit more about the isolation for families involved in this. So that means the household, the family, will need to isolate with them. And if a person cannot do that, there will be other isolation facilities for them away from their household.
Okay, so if he cannot, remember, that is not a choice. The way he is saying that is basically that they will be forced. And if they cannot or will not, then there will be other facilities that will be prepared for them to go. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is kind of the main point of this video and thing that really concerns me, and it's not just about the forced quarantines, but it's also about what they are planning on doing with the children that are in the situation of this forced quarantine. Now, I am sad to say that, and I'm getting here right now, that when I was given the understanding by someone in Washington that this was going on in Washington or getting ready to go on, and then they said to me, and they're going to, there's children, youth and children's quarantine centers. And I said, I don't know if I believe that. I can't believe that they would actually take the children from their parents and put them in quarantine centers with people they don't know, doing things that they don't know, injecting, whatever into their body that their parents don't know. They surely wouldn't do that. And so I said, if you're going to say those things, you better give me some evidence. So they sent me some evidence, and and so I'm going to show it to you, or at least I'm going to read it to you. So if you go to governmentjobs.com, and you'll see that the Washington State Department of Children's, Youth, and Family has posted a job. You can also do it on ZipRecruiter. And you'll see again the Washington State Department of Children and Youth Families. And this is what the ad for the job position is. DCYF, so the Department of Children and Youth Family, is seeking current DCYF employees in King, Snohomish, and Benton counties to supervise and support children and youth in emergency quarantine centers. We are looking for current DCYF social services specialists, three S's, to care for children who are either COVID-19 positive or who may have been exposed to COVID-19. There are 3 locations: Cedar Springs Camp, Visitation Center, and Bethel Church. Responsibilities include supervising social service specialists, providing direct care and supervision, assessing and responding appropriately to meet children's needs, and engage in various educational and social activities with residents. I really wish that I was making this up. I really wish that I was making this up.
I wanted to talk just a little bit more about the isolation for families involved in this. So that means the household, the family will need to isolate with them. And if a person cannot do that, there will be other isolation facilities for them away from their household. And one way or another, we got to make sure we take care of people's health. For people,
Yeah, how do you like that? One way or another, we got to take care of people's health. Who cares about their family, their children, their freedom, their job? Who cares as long as they're healthy, right? Now, I want to put this in perspective. You might say, well, Ammon, you're missing the point. No, I'm not missing the point. The Washington COVID-19 death rate is 0.01260669. There's been less than 1,000 people die from COVID-19. That's what the numbers skewed. You know that's not accurate. That's with them counting pneumonia, flu, all of that. They still only have 908 people that they've claimed died from COVID-19. There's 7.6 million people live in Washington. That's a 0.021260669%. But hey,
and one way or another, we got to make sure we take care of people's health.
Right? One way or another, we got to take care of people's health. That's the most important thing. Unbelievable.
For people who
now listen, let's go on and listen to this.
For people who finally won't comply, they're going to have to comply eventually. No one's looking to make this a federal crime. The reason we can do the contact tracing is twofold. Number one, we've stood up an army, so to speak, and we now have 1,391 people who on just a couple days' notice can be available to do what's necessary to do this contact tracing. As far as refusal, it just shouldn't come to that, and it really hasn't. And that would be legally enforceable. We would make sure that people know the seriousness of that issue. It's one of the reasons I'm glad we have the Guard, who are very disciplined and follow orders. I'm glad we have Department of Licensing people and the Department of Health. The budget issue, as you know, our preliminary numbers is that we'll be at just under $7 billion deficit for the next 3 years, and this can be a real challenge for us.
There's also something very wicked brewing in Washington, D.C. So Washington State and Washington, D.C. And again, I wish I was wrong. But the 116th Congress, that's our Congress right now in Washington, D.C., is proposing a bill. And it is H.R., again, it's hard to believe, but it's H.R. 6666. Now I'm going to read you the description at the very first paragraph of this bill. H.R. 6666. To authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units and as necessary at individuals' residence and for other purposes. My friends, I did not read that incorrectly. It is House Bill 666, and it authorizes the Secretary of Health and Human Services to conduct related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units as necessary at individuals' residence and for other purposes.
One way or another, we got to make sure we take care of people's health.
Okay, my friends, this is the line in the sand. I have heard over and over again from people all across the country, especially militias. Oh, we're preparing for the day that we hope never comes. Well, that day's already come and gone. It's already gone. But I hope and pray that the line in the sand is at least our children and our families. I hope that it's at least that line. And I hope that we can unite together as neighbors and friends, as people who love each other, as people who love God, and stop these wicked people from what they're doing. And we here in Idaho and across the country have started something that I am asking everybody to join. And the way you join it is by texting RIGHTS to 80123. Text RIGHTS to 80123. And then fill out the form. And what it'll do is it will connect you with your neighbors who have the same feelings as you do. The same understanding, or at least are understanding and waking up. Because what this is going to come down to, it for sure will come down to this. I am certain it will. I don't know how long it'll take, but it will come down to this. It'll come down to them trying to force you to comply and be obedient, and for your neighbors and all of you standing together and saying no. And the only way that we're going to be safe and preserve this country, the only way is for us to say no together and mean it and be prepared, be organized, communicate with each other, and stop this wickedness that is coming at us full blown. Stop it. We must expose the darkness, and we must stop it. And unfortunately, we have to stop it at our front doors this time. It will be at our front doors. I wish I was wrong. And I want to tell you all that I love you. I love people. And I am concerned for each of us. And I'm concerned for this land that we live in and what is happening. So I ask you to do something about it. And the only thing that I can tell you to do right now is unite with your neighbors. And I think the best way to do that is by texting RIGHTS to 80123. And that will connect you with your neighbors. And I'm asking you to do that mainly for all of us, for the people across this country. Thank you.